Hello, welcome to my presentation. My name is Fiona Leake and this is Dialogue Across Cultures and Religions. In moving away from the anthropocentric scientism based ontology and embracing holistic philosophies such as Daoism, we may bring about the right conditions to enable the intentions of human rights and rights of all things to flourish naturally. I'm not really someone that's inclined toward woo-woo. Interestingly, a term that's actually really close to one of the main practices of Daoism. In my adult life, I've very much held fast to there being one truth, A plus B equals C, and that the problems of the world are fundamentally due to egotistical, primarily men, making idiotic decisions. And once we sort these men out, all will be well. But maybe it's not these men. Maybe if it's not the actors, but the ideas. And even before the ideas, it could be the premise. And before the premise, well, what if we start there? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me introduce you to Daoism, really limited way. It is referred to as both Daoism and Taoism because of the Romanization of Chinese characters. I'm going to use Daoism for the rest of the presentation because I find D more satisfying than T to say. So Daoism is both a philosophy and a religion, and its origins date back to between the 3rd and 4th century BCE. The origin story goes that a wise man by the name of Lao Tzu, please forgive all of my pronunciation, including my English, worked as a record keeper in the court of his time, but in exasperation at the corruption, decided to leave on a water buffalo, and he was dressed as a peasant. He was discovered. He was asked to write down his wisdom, which became known as a Tao Te Ching or Tao Te Ching. This, along with the Zhang Shi, are two of the most prominent books in the Taoist canon, which actually includes 1,421 titles written by different authors over the centuries. Now, trying to summarize Taoism quickly is kind of like trying to tie a rope around a cloud. So instead, we're going to consider a few important premises. We are part of the universe. Humans, nature, animals, stars, all of it is part of a cosmic whole. To an adept Taoist, the body itself is a microcosm of that cosmos. So everything beyond is within and connected. The picture that I have here is actually a representation of that internal landscape. Now, there is no sentient God as such, but there is Tao, or the way, or the path. The path, and within the path, there is original unity and harmony. And that original unity and harmony comes from there being the one, which created the two created the three, and then the three created the myriad of beings, which kind of encompasses everything, all of us, all of the time. So when you think of the path, don't think of something that you need to move along, but actually the natural flow of things, these unencumbered patterns of inherent harmony and seasonal and cosmic rhythms. Just to take a quick stop at the term cosmic, this actually speaks to the idea that the cosmos, or similar to the cosmos, Tao is actually very elusive and vague. It's deep, it's obscure, soundless, and formless. So it's every aspect of ourselves and everything outside of ourselves. My point here is that everything is interconnected at all times. And so to follow the Tao and pursue and ideally achieve harmony is to remain aware of your being one part of an infinite whole. That's not to say that harmony is peace, because within nature, animals, ourselves, the earth, universe, there is conflict and movement and change. So here we come to yin and yang. Now, yin and yang both repel and attract each other at the same time. They are complementary, but also they're opposite. So if we're all part of nature, and nature is about balance, there's going to be yin, deaths, conflict and difficulties, and there's going to be yang, births, celebrations and joy. Should things be going terribly wrong for an individual or a society or a community, it suggests that there's an imbalance of yin and yang, and something that is actually outside of what is the natural flow. To right the balance within the spirit of Tao, we must engage with non-interference or wu wei and spontaneity, ziran. We do not interfere in terms of imposing ourselves, our values or desires upon human or non-human entities. And we spontaneously live with compassion and benevolence and pure altruism, as this is the nature of interconnectedness, or what the Taoists call the heart nature, and is aligned with the harmony of the cosmos of which we are all equally a part. So my argument here today is not that we should down tools and embrace a do-nothing approach, nor is it to abandon hope for the society which we've developed, although were that an option. My argument is that in stepping away from the anthropocentric approach to rights, in seeing ourselves as both less than and more than human, we might generate increased empathy and have the motivation, therefore, to implement the ideals that we've held for so long. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, anthropocentrism is the philosophical belief that humans are the central or most significant beings on Earth and in the universe. Humans are separate and superior, and they're also essentially more important than everything else. Now, human rights, as currently held, were founded primarily by white men, hailing from societies founded on or practicing Christian religion, which itself is actually anthropocentric. Further, the philosophical approaches of these men were likely influenced by Thomas Hobbes' concept of the nature of humans being that self-preservation is paramount, and that humans, as materially motivated beings, have rights to desirable things, as well as Kant's assertion that societies to achieve freedom require a social contract. Finally, that the truth has been discovered, aren't we lucky, through the enlightenment and embracing of its scientism. So God is dead. Knowledge is the domain of man. It follows, therefore, that rights, as we know them in their development, were premised on human superiority and the belief that intervention is required for liberty and peace. Not only this, though, but as discussed by Hang, Western culture uses the anthropological machine in its process of politicization of distinguishing human from inhuman or non-human, and thereby who deserves protections or rights and who does not, and whose protections or rights can be taken away or not considered depending on the winds of the West. But under Daoism, the approach is to step away from the binary and the hierarchical frameworks, that they can't do anything except privilege one thing over another. You're setting this up. So this system that we exist in imposes a measure for determining values. It could be economic, cultural, spiritual, and forms a hierarchy to oppress and exclude the non-dominant part of whatever pair it might be. So this is that race over that race, and this gender over another, and man from beast and animal over nature. The Taoist philosophical approach to human rights would be, given we're all part of one entity and in pursuit of harmony, it is in our interest to not allocate goodness and kindness to one of the myriad of things above another, but actually afford equal consideration to all, to elevate ourselves from pragmatism, materialism, ego, politics, and even religion for the good of the whole of which we're actually a part. Further, the philosophy relinquishes the need for a social contract, dare I say the entire EDHR, because a genuine Taoist practicing wu-wei and spontaneity would spontaneously respect the human rights of the other. Well, in an ideal cosmos, but we are not in an ideal cosmos. And here we engage with the Taoist practice of deconstruction. Deconstruction questions the taken for granted assumptions and differentiation. There is a hole in the bucket, all our tools are broken, and even if they weren't, straw is only ever straw. But we continue with the bucket. Taoists see from a space before the bucket. And maybe if we did too, then the focus is no longer on the hole in the bucket, because the bucket does not exist. I may have gone too far with my metaphor, but what I mean to say is that we continue trying to make this work, make human rights work, fix inequality, the oppression, the violence, the poverty. But maybe the time has come, rather than implementing rules to alter our behaviours which we don't even follow, change our perspectives, to remove the stained glasses from our eyes, obscuring us from alternative ways of being, seeing and doing, and deconstruct systems within and outside ourselves, which arguably created the cosmic imbalance in the first place. To move from our bloodied hold on scientism of Kant and Hobbes and the great men of the past, and consider there may be more than we can calculate. As Hung iterated, the Taoist philosophers are sensitive to the problems of inequality and discrimination, and they reveal that the origin of these problems comes from sticking to the ready-made. This brings us to the fasting of the mind. A ritual of Daoism is the removal of social, political, cultural constraints that taint perspective, belief, and justification of action, creating space that is open and outside of subjectivity. of self-preservation, of material motivation. In this tradition, each individual is directly responsible for the harmony or disruption of the whole. If the foundation of human rights, of cosmic rights, were that each of us is responsible for the myriad creatures or beings, including ourselves and the environment, if the awareness was that in my causing you harm, I cause myself harm, my community harm, and the cosmos harm, would I do harm? We fast. We remove distractions and transcend assumptions and institutionalization. We contemplate our being as part of the greater being. We base our beliefs and behaviours on this. And on this foundation, would not each state raise the other up? Knowing that the state is an amalgamation of humans, and humans are part of their land, and their land a part of our planet, and our planet a part of the cosmos, and the cosmos within each of us. This land is not mine or yours, but ours. That vaccine is not mine or yours, but both of our health. That knowledge does not belong to me, but brings awareness to us all. The air I breathe is the air that my dog does. The water I wash in is the water that washes the trees of the Amazon and came to us from light years away. In seeing ourselves as more than just merely human, in deconstructing the hierarchy which sees humans, and within that particular sets of humans, as superior to all, we may be better equipped to enact our previously stated intentions, ratify previously signed agreements, implement at micro and macro levels policy that is compassionate to all. Should we continue trying to do as we have done and expect a better outcome, or rather consider Taoist teachings of Lao Tzu? He said, the truth which can be spoken is not the constant truth, and the way which can be trodden is not the enduring and unchanging way. Is it time now not to deconstruct what we know and reconsider our truths, to actually unpick the ontological threads that have maintained the inequality, corruption, violence, and oppression of known human history? Could we embrace this or other philosophies that seek harmony for all, everything, and everything that's in between, simply by returning to our own natural rhythms, not as superior, but as part of? Thank you. These are my references. Oh, sorry, I can't go back.